and dividing fractions. Reciprocals and dividing fractions. Most of you right now are going, I don't know what a reciprocal is. I'm aware of that. Yep, that's why we're about to learn it. Okay? Reciprocals are something that when people first hear of them, they kind of panic and they go, but it makes no sense. And then they kind of calm down for a second and then they go, oh, yeah, that's really easy. Okay? So, a reciprocal means using a number's inverse. So, using a number's inverse value to set it to 1. Now what are we going to do? Just watch. I'll show you. Using a numbers, that should be plural, there we go. Numbers inverse value to set it to 1. Okay. If I gave you the whole number 5 and I wanted it to equal 1 with multiplication, what would I do? Well, let's think. If I was using subtraction, I could make 5 equal 1, couldn't I? How? Minus 4. If I was using division, I could make 5 equal 1, couldn't I? How? Divide by 5. So if I'm going to divide by 5, but I need to use multiplication, I need to do the opposite. What's the opposite of multiplication? Well, division. But multiplication's already written here. So you use the inverse of the number. We'll use 1/5 to be able to get 5 to 1. Okay? So let me show you why. 5, the whole number written as a fraction, is 5 over 1. Okay? And if I multiply that by 1 over 5, what is 5 times 1?
5.
And what is 1 times 5?
5.
So that gives me 5 over 5, which equals 1 whole.
So you got 1.
Okay? So this is where people kind of start to panic and they go, but calm down. Let's look. So 5 written as a whole number was 5 over 1. We use the numbers inverse. Inverse is like another way of saying opposite, but we don't want to say opposite because the opposite of 5 is -5 and we don't want to go there. So what we're doing is we're using the inverse. It means the flipped version. All we did was flip it over. 5 over 1 now flips to become 1 over 5. And when those are multiplied, they equal 1. So a reciprocal is the flipped version. So when we say reciprocal, if it makes sense, you can call it the reflippical. To make you remember to flip it over. Okay? So if I had 3, how would I make 3 equal 1? Times
1/3.
1/3. And so I'll show you why that worked. 3 written as a fraction is 3 over 1 times 1/3, which gives me 3 over 3, which equals 1. Okay?
I'm starting again. What if it's not that easy?
Okay, we're going to come to some of those. I'm starting you off with the easier ones, just so that we can kind of wrap our head around it. What about 21?
It would be 1 over 21.
1 over 21. And that works because that's 21 over 1 times 1 over 21. That gets us to 1. Okay. So you ready for me to step it up a little bit?
Yes.
I say we do like one more kind of big like that and we can step it up.
Okay. What about this one?
1/184.
1 over 184.
184
Excellent, Alina.
and times 1 over 184.
Okay. And this part you won't typically write. I'm just writing that so you can see why it works. Okay? This is typically where you're going to leave it. Yes, sir.
I have another way of thinking it.
Okay.
So you could do like 5 times the number and then it wouldn't equal like 1, it would equal like 100%. I think I have that backwards. Yeah, I did. But never mind.
So you're thinking of it in a percentage or a proportional type way. So you want to make it 100%. So if the number was 5, 100% of it would be 5. I've never thought of it that way, and I can see where you're going. I might have to help you a little bit, streamline that thought, and we could probably get it there. All right, let's look at a fraction. I have 2/3. What is its reciprocal? It's reflippable. Flip it over. 2/3 flipped over becomes 3 over 2. And you see? That would be 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. What's the reciprocal of 4/5? 5 over 4. 20 over 20. What if I gave you this?
You would just flip the fraction over, but keep the whole.
Okay. So Anaya says you'll just flip the fraction over but keep the whole.
No, you turn it into an improper fraction.
Turn it into an improper fraction, then flip it over. Okay? So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So we have 8/5. So we're going to flip it over into 5/8. And that'll get us 40 over 40. Okay? Now, let's look at it the way that Anaya was saying just a second ago. So she said just flip the fraction and keep the whole. So we're going to test it and see what happens. Well, I'm still going to have to turn this into an improper fraction to be able to multiply them. So you see how you don't have the 8? You're missing, the 1 was 5/5, so you're missing 5 pieces because of the whole. So that's why you have to take the whole with you, so that you have all the pieces accounted for. Okay? Comfortable with reciprocals? Yes, no, maybe? Yes, no, maybe?
The fractions
I
are a
don't
little
know.
more.
But can we try another one with the improper fractions guide?
Mm-hmm. I'll give you one more with an improper fraction. 2 and...
Fractions are a little more difficult than regular ones.
So 2 and 3/7. And you want to set it to 1. So I need you to find its reciprocal. So what'd you get for your improper fraction of 2 and 3/7? 17 over 7?
Yeah, 17 over 7.
Excellent. So what is its reciprocal?
7/17. I put that.
7/17. Okay. What if you were given a problem that looked like this? A blank. And then it looked like this. Oh, sorry, you can't see it. There it is.
You have to do it backwards.
Okay. So what's the reciprocal? The reciprocal of 6?
Oh, no, it's 1/6.
1/6. Just like that. Okay. So those reciprocals that you've been working on are going to come into play when we start dividing here in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to switch pages because I need some more space.
Are you going to use yellow now?
No, I'll use yellow here.
Is it like a lot of space or can I use half space?
You probably won't need a whole lot of space because you'll get it pretty quick.
I don't know.
Okay, so now we're going to start dividing fractions. Yesterday when we were multiplying fractions, let's say I took the fraction 1/3 times 1/2. Okay? 1/3 times 1/2. Now the reason that we don't find a common denominator when we're multiplying fractions is because we're not trying to put these two numbers together. My first fraction is what I have. The second fraction is telling me how many times I want it, how many times I'm going to pick it up and put it in the basket. Well, I'm only going to put it in there half of a time. So I'm going to show you what that picture would look like. Do we all agree that this is 1/3?
Yeah.
Okay. How many times am I going to pick it up and put it in a basket? Half of a time. So I'm going to cut it in half, just like that. I just cut it in half. And here's the half I'm going to pick up and put in a basket. Well, what is that half worth? It's worth 1 out of how many pieces total? 6. Look over here at your multiplication problem. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay? So let's look at how it's going to affect us when we're doing a division problem. I'm going to take the very same numbers. 1/3 divided by 2. Or divided by 1/2, sorry. 1/3 divided by 1/2. It gets tricky because there is an underlying math rule that some teachers don't tell you, and I'm going to give you the secret. I'm going to tell you. The answer to division is always what one unit gets. Okay? So that means the answer is always what one person's going to get. If I've got suckers in a bucket and I'm passing suckers out and we made a division problem out of it, the answer is what one person would get. What does Cooper get, or what does Austin get, or what does Magnolia get? You want to know what one person gets. So that's the goal of a division problem, is to find out what one unit gets. What one person gets, what one car gets, what one basket gets, what one house gets, whatever the problem may be. Okay? So let's look. We are dividing by 1/2. Is half equal to 1 unit? Is it a whole unit? No, it's missing something, isn't it? So in order for me to find the answer, I have to raise the value. I have to turn that half in to another number. Well, we just said we can make half equal 1. Let's make it equal 1 unit. What is that? What do we use? The reciprocal, which is 2 over 1. Okay? So follow me for a second. Do you remember in 5th grade when we would tell you to do keep, change, flip?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
You were keeping the fraction and using the reciprocal. Because if we use that reciprocal, 1/2 and 2 over 1, we get 1 unit. And our goal in division is to get to 1 unit, right? What does 1 unit get? So now, 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3.
I did not agree with that.
Okay, just give it a second. Give it a second. All right, so I'm going to show you in picture form why that worked. Okay, if I have 1/3 divided by 1/2, that means for every half I have a third. So here's my picture. So what does this half get? What does it show over here? 1/3 for every half. So this half would give us 1/3, right? Now to make this whole, I have to fill in this half as well. So that half also gets what? What is there all together in the whole? What was our answer up here?
2/3. I get it.
So this whole time when you've been doing keep, change, flip, you've been doing reciprocals. You're using the inverse. You're using the inverse. Okay? So let's try another one. 3/4 divided by 1/5. We're going to rewrite the problem in reciprocal form, aren't we? Because we want this to be 1 whole. Because that's how we find the answer to division. So the answer to division, we're going to use the reciprocal. Y'all have always called that keep, change, flip. Keep the first, change the sign, flip the second, reflipical. And it gets you 15 over 4. And we would change that into a mixed number, wouldn't we? All I did was take the 15/4 and turn it into 3 3/4. Okay. What if this time I wanted to divide by 5?
Just put 5 over 1.
The answer in division is always what one unit gets, so we want to set 5 to 1, so we're going to use the reciprocal. And we would wind up with 3/20. So how does this come into play with mixed numbers? What do you think we're going to do if we have a mixed number?
You're gonna turn it into a, what's it called? Oh, yeah.
An improper fraction, good. So the first thing we would do is convert these into improper fractions. I'll give you a second to catch up. Now, this is where a lot of students will make their first mistake. They change these into improper fractions right here, and then they try to find the reciprocal from this messiness. Please rewrite the problem. Like, as a matter of fact, everybody raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I promise to never try to find the reciprocal from this hot mess. I will mess up and then throw a fit and say, I don't know how to do this. So just don't do it. Okay. All right, so we're going to rewrite the problem, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to rewrite the problem with the improper fractions, and that's when I'm going to find the reciprocal. And we want the reciprocal because division has to be what one unit gets.
88 over 60. I mean, 60 over 88.
60 over 88. And then we would simplify. I say that word and some of y'all just immediately like hang your head in shame. You're like, no. I'm going to divide by 4 and see what happens.
Why don't we just go with the simple one?
It will never end.
Okay. So it gets me 15 over 22. Okay. So today's follow-up work is going to be not too bad. It is set into a Google form so that it'll grade it as you go. Like at the end, you'll know how you did. And the grade that it gives you will be correct. The first few problems are going to be you finding reciprocals to be able to complete the equation to make it set to 1. The next few problems are going to be some mixed numbers divided by mixed numbers. I highly suggest you use paper to work these problems because the answer choices that are on there are all correct if you make 1 or 2 little mistakes. Okay, so you need to find the no mistakes actual correct answer. It's not going to take you long. Once you complete it, you can turn it in, and then you can work on Freckle. Nobody in this class has worked on Freckle for math yet. You can do any missing assignments that you have. Or you may work on something that you need to for another class. But you need to be productive at the end of it. Okay? The question of the day is also on there. Read the question of the day very carefully. A lot of people in the last class were finding part of the answer, but not the whole answer. That's why I give you these questions of the day so that you can be practicing those deeper thinking STAR style questions.